and welcome to Lunchtime Politics, reaching you live from our global headquarters here in the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. Let's bring you up to speed with the big stories we're tracking for you in politics and in the politics. Inspector General of Police drops alleged defamation charge against lawyer and rights activist Dele Farotimi. South Governors Forum backed President Tinubu's tax reforms, call for derivation from more sources. And the All Progressives Congress responds to former Vice President Atiku over comments on instability in opposition political parties during his remarks at the Strengthening Governance Conference in Abuja. Atiku's media advisor joins me on the program for a response. Thanks again for joining us on the program. The last 48 or 24 hours has been marked by political rhetorics from Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, the former vice president, to Yakubu Dogara, the former speaker of the House of Representatives, to the APC's response. It's been an avalanche of comments upon comments and remarks upon remarks. We're going to explore all of it on the program, but let's first tell you that the president is back in the country, in Abuja now, after attending the Africa Heads of State Energy Summit in Dar es Salaam, that's in Tanzania. The president, who landed at Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, was received by the Chief of Staff, Femi Gbajabiamila, the Minister of State for Defense, Bello Matawalle, and the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, among other top government officials. At the conference in Dar es Salaam, the continent's leaders pledged to provide access to electricity for 3 million citizens across the continent in the near future. The Nigerian Police Force has filed a notice of discontinuance in the defamation suit filed by the Inspector General of Police against Lagos-based legal practitioner and author Dele Farotimi. The Channels Television cited the notice of continuance dated January 29th, which was filed pursuant to the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015, and which seeks to withdraw the charge pending against Mr. Farotimi at the Federal High Court at Ado-Ekiti in Ekiti State. The notice, which was signed by the police prosecutor Samson Osubu, also disclosed that the police will be asking the court to strike out the charge following the desire of the nominal complainant, Areafe Babalola, to discontinue the case after the intervention of well-meaning Nigerians. Parties to the suit had gathered at the Federal High Court at Ado-Ekiti, and the prosecution has served a notice on the defendant's counsel in court, but the judge who was expected was yet to sit to formally strike out the case as at press time. There's still another charge filed by the police and pending at the Magistrate Court at Ado-Ekiti, which has not been discontinued. That case will come up on February the 13th. The expectation is that the police will also discontinue that case before the next adjourned date. In the meantime, the governors from the South region have thrown their weight behind President Tinubu's tax reform bill, emphasizing the need for a fair derivation formula that benefits resource-rich regions. The governors made their position known in Yenagoa, the Bayelsa state capital, at a high-level meeting to deliberate on issues affecting the region.
We are supporting Mr. President on the tax reforms. However, on the issue of VAT and derivation, the derivation on VAT, we are saying that it should be extended to other sectors, like the oil and gas. You might ask, but there is already derivation in oil and gas. I thought that was where you were actually going to. And it is 13%. Constitutionally, it is stated that that is the minimum. That is the minimum. And what we are saying is an increase of the 13%. It has been the minimum over the decades. And everything is increasing. And so there is no reason why the derivation, if VAT will now be 60%, 30%, as the case may be, what we are saying also is that derivation of oil and gas should also be increased. We thank Mr. President for the ongoing work on the East-West Road. The forum emphasized the need to expedite action towards the completion of that road. This will facilitate movement within the region, noting that it is the major road that links all the South-South states. The forum further requests the federal government to urge relevant stakeholders and agencies to extend the remediation of polluted environment ongoing in Ogoniland to other impacted communities and states in the region. The forum calls on the federal government to activate the railway line in Port Harcourt and connect all other South-South states.
All right, so that's a call by the South-South governors, all of them represented, I think except the governor of Edo State, Monday Okpebholo, who was not in that particular meeting in Bayelsa State, calling and supporting the president on the reforms, but asking for a few more things as far as the reforms is concerned, so that places where the eggs are laid also benefit from whatever is laid in those areas. So, but let's also tell you that the federal government has announced plans to further strengthen security around the nation's borders to curtail the influx of irregular migrants. Speaking at a media parley in Abuja with heads of agencies under the Ministry of Interior, the Minister of Interior himself, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, also announced that the federal government raked in approximately 2.4 billion naira from marriage contracts via 8 marriage registry in 2024.
Heads of agencies under the Ministry of Interior are gathered here for the first media interaction hosted by the minister.
In 2025,
the permanent secretary kickstarts the event with a welcome address.
In this new year, as we begin, we want to put what we've been able to achieve in 2024 before you, and also what we intend to do in 2025. The challenges we face are significant, but we also have opportunities. And we look at the fact that together we can foster a safer, more secure, and inclusive environment for all citizens.
Reeling out the achievements of the ministry in the last 1 year, the minister announced an increase in revenue generation through marriage contracts and issuance of expatriate quota certificates.
I'm happy to tell you that the revenue that accrued to government increased by over 150%, due to the optimization of that particular solution. And for instance, in expatriate quota last year, the government was able to realize about 3.2 billion naira from expatriate quota alone. And of course, this is not about just giving quota to people. It's about application fee. So it means that it's not a function of approval. It's a function of application. It's a function of requisition, not necessarily approval.
Strengthening the nation's border security and ease of doing business is also germane to the federal government.
In total of over 10,783 personnel in the last 2 years, 2023 and 2024, has been recruited. This is not just about bringing people on board. It's about helping our national security architecture. It's about prioritizing the security of Nigerians by the president and getting more boots on ground to be able to protect lives and property.
The federal government is reiterating its commitments to contain and curtail the influx of irregular migrants into the country as part of efforts to secure the nation.
All right, let's get to the conversation for the day. And I want to show you a few things. About 48 hours or less ago, there was a strengthening democracy conference that was held in Abuja. And the vice president had made a presentation through Professor Bayo. This is what I just call it the Atiku's guardrails for democracy. He talked about capacity of institutions, rule of law, party supremacy, consequence for disobedience, building coalition, judicial reform to check judicial recklessness. Those are some of the things he put out to strengthen democracy in Nigeria, maybe across the African continent. In fact, in the rule of law and party supremacy, it's talked about if you defect, you should lose your seat. And people should obey the constitution of the country as well as that of the party. As a matter of fact, it talked about the fact that war chest politicians should not be allowed to capture the political parties. And it took a swipe at the judiciary, by the way. We're being joined in the program by his media advisor, Mr. Paul Aide. Joins us from our Abuja studio. Mr. Aide, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me, Geoffrey.
All right, so Mr. Aide, whilst I would like you to maybe take a look again at some of the things that were presented by your principal at that forum, I know that the APC, Felix Moka, the National Publicity Secretary, responded. In fact, in his own nuance, he looks at what the former vice president has said as an exaggeration. In fact, he calls it false alarm and hollow allegations of desperate politicians whose only goal is to shore up their political relevance as a build-up to 2027. I would like you to respond to that.
Well, when a gentleman uses the word desperate or desperation, I'm sure he was referencing the APC, and this administration, because here is a party and an administration that is, using a playbook, of trying to, aggregate everybody, into the same boat, one-party dictatorship, and that's what this party is, this administration is trending towards, and it's very clear from all intents and purposes, from what they are doing, buying up, they're on a buying up spree. Buying up the opposition, leaders, all over the place. I mean, what does that suggest to you? That's desperation. That's classical desperation, and because they are, unable to deliver on the promises that I have made to Nigerians, and with an eye on 2027, it becomes difficult for anybody to expect, anything from them in terms of governance. And so they are adopting desperate measures, buying up the opposition leaders, and that's what they are doing.
So when you say buy up opposition leader, what do you mean by, Mr. Ibe, my apologies, what do you mean by buy up? Because they were really livid on that particular comment that Mr. Atiku had talked about, using about some money, mentioning about the Atiku's allegation that APC-led administration was paying 50 million naira to some opposition figures, simply bogus and laughable. They seem not to agree. So where is that coming from?
Geoffrey, it's a notorious fact that this administration, has an agenda, to decimate, the opposition parties, whether it's the PDP, the Labour Party, or the opposition in general. And the reason is clear. They understand that the way they are set, the way they are going, they'll have little or nothing to show, for the 4 years by 2027. And so they are compromising, destroying, the opposition. They are buying up. What else can be clearer than that? They are buying up the opposition. They are corrupting, the opposition leaders. And that's what they've been doing.
I'm going to come to the issue of His Excellency Atiku Abubakar, but they say politics is a game. The game is the game, and the game has to be played in the way you politicians play this game. So are you going to blame the players for playing the game on this particular one? That is, if the allegation is true.
Well, I don't know what you mean by game. The APC happened on our political scene on a change mantra. And so why are they behaving like Lot's wife, looking back? Why do you want to do what, the previous parties have done, which you claim were not good enough? That becomes your benchmark. That's not acceptable for a party that promotes itself as a change party.
But there's also argument, in fact, the headline of that particular response. I'm going to come to some of the things Mr. Atiku Abubakar had mentioned about eroding democracy and some of the issues around internal politics. I think we should just get through to the internal politics. He has said that it is his political desperation that is even responsible for the political PDP's catastrophic posturing right now, where it looks like there's no going forward, there's no going backward because of his own ambition. They are saying, rather than blame it on us, why don't you blame it on your ambition? Is that not a fair comment?
Well, are they trying to suggest that it is wrong for an individual to have an ambition, especially an individual who has said, multiple times on record, but how this country has been good to him, and he wants to give back? And what is wrong in that? What is wrong in somebody preparing himself? What is wrong in somebody providing, seeking to provide leadership? Is that desperation? I don't understand. I just told you what desperation is. Desperation is APC, trying to ensure, that they decimate, the opposition parties. And it's not fair game. It's not fair game because you are trumping, that you are a party of change. You have come to change, things the way that, they are done. And so, trying to, get involved, to compromise, the processes of the opposition parties, trying to create, factions and crises, it's not fair game, Geoffrey. It's not.
Well,
but then again, this is classical, the APC and this administration, to divide, everything, and when we stand, when we are not united, how can we be able to talk about development?
So the argument again is the fact that, without trying to speak for them, they feel that what is going on in the PDP is strongly because of the posturing of Mr. Atiku Abubakar. He's tried to run for president for I think 6 or so. If he runs again, that may be the 7th time, as much as he has a right to run as many times as possible. The argument from people within the PDP that I've also had to interview on this program, even on the station, is the fact that perhaps if Mr. Atiku drops his ambition, PDP will be able to rally itself around. Is that something that Mr. Atiku considers, and what is the way forward? Because part of what we're discussing now is the weakening of the opposition parties from PDP to the Labour and to the rest, and it's not healthy for any democracy.
Geoffrey, I'm at means at what you're saying, and whatever it is being suggested. Are you saying that it is not a sin, for somebody to have an ambition to run for an election? I'm talking about running for an election. How many?
Say that.
Yes. How many times did that?
To run. Yes. I'm just bringing to the fore some of the things the party members are saying, because we're talking about strong opposition here, and there's no strong opposition.
How many times did the former president Namadi Buhari run for office?
Now you answer. I think about 4 times before he eventually got it.
Okay. The point I'm trying to make is that I don't think that's our problem.
No.
How many times, Atiku presents himself for office? The question you ask yourself is Atiku capable? Does he have the wherewithal? Is he healthy? Is he fit? Does he have the faculty? Those are the things that we should be looking at, not the number of times that he has run.
All right, Mr. Aide,
and that's also a measure. That's also a measure of the man that we're talking about.
We can continue to see on this
ability
matter,
to be knocked down.
Just a moment. We'll continue,
go ahead.
We can continue to stay on this matter, but let me move on now, because does it bother you as spokesperson of the former vice president as well as himself that the opposition is the way it is? Because how long will anyone continue to blame the ruling party for not doing their job? What do I mean? You're meant to be the opposition. Whether the opposition is indeed complicit in your instability or not, you can't blame somebody for what's going on in your house, can you?
Feel free. Listen, the APC has made it its assignment to determine, what happens in the PDP. Not just at the party, at the state, it's a state policy. And you think we should let that by? It is a policy of the state, not even just of the party, to interfere in the affairs of an opposition party. The opposition needs to be clear. There should be an environment that will give the opposition the opportunity to thrive.
So let's break it down, Mr. Aide. So what exactly would you want to happen? What exactly would you want to happen? Because I'm trying to push a responsibility to your own house, to manage your own house, but there's still the pushback as to somebody is responsible for the disorder in my house. So what exactly do you want to play out for you to be able to be a strong, formidable opposition like we've seen when the APC was in the opposition? As I say, not having a strong opposition is not good for any democracy.
I'm happy you said that, because a strong opposition is very critical, in a democracy. Otherwise, it's to your terms, oh Israel, we will all, coalesce, into the APC. The point is this: the way that the APC is shopping and buying up people, it reminds me of what is going on in the Mediterranean. When people trying to migrate, getting into all those boats. It is be mindful of the capacity. Even those boats have limited capacity. And so even the APC itself has a limited capacity, the number of people that they are taking up, into that boat. And sooner than later, what probably happens in the Mediterranean Sea will happen to them. It will sink. The opposition needs to be allowed to thrive as much as the ruling party. That's the only way to get the best, out of this system. We're able to propel us, towards, development that will bring about, a change, in the life of, of Nigerians, which is very dismal right now as we speak. Poverty, is being weaponized, and that is also the tool that they are using to ensure that it is easy to dangle, things before people, and in the midst of. In the midst of all of this hunger and poverty, it becomes difficult, for many people to say no.
Okay.
To their bids.
So, Mr. Aide, as we begin to wind down, if the opposition or the ruling party, I beg your pardon, chooses not to back down on this strategy you say they've deployed, what is the PDP left of in terms of option?
Well, what the opposition is left of, as highlighted by not only His Excellency Atiku, but other leaders at that conference, is building a coalition. I think that is imperative. They found themselves, at a crossroads, and what they need to do is to harmonize their, their strengths, and so that they can minimize, their weaknesses.
I must thank you so much, Mr. Paul Ibe, media advisor to the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. I must thank you so much for coming on the program at short notice. Thank you.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. All right, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has handed over 4 land title documents recovered from criminal syndicates to their owners. The title documents are worth over ₦1 billion. They were falsified by a syndicate of land fraudsters in Abuja. They allegedly forged the document and deprived the lawful owners of the property. Handing over the document to the victims, the executive chairman of the commission, Mr. Ola Lukoyede, that's the EFCC commission now, that the recovery of the original document was a product of diligent investigation by the operatives of the EFCC. It further assures that all land fraudsters in the Federal Capital Territory will be brought to book. By the way, that was not I was talking about some land document, but you just saw that picture about money laundering that Justice Mariam Aneni of the Federal High Court, Abuja, has adjourned the trial in the alleged money laundering case against the immediate past governor of Kogi State, Yaya Bello, to May the 3rd, 24th, May the 4th, 6th, and then April the 3rd and 24th. Justice Anene adjourned the case for continuation of hearing after the first witness, Fabian Wara, a property developer, was called to testify. At the day's proceeding, the prosecution counsel, Kemi Pineros, SAN, informed the court that he had 5 witnesses to call for the day, but Justice Marian Anene said she will only take 1 witness. The counsel to the first and second defendant, Joseph Daude, SAN, however, informed the court that the prosecution had not made the statement on oath, and the second defendant available to the team. He said he was aware of the first defendant had not made any statement yet. So we'll continue to follow up on this particular story of Yaya Bello as far as the issue of the money laundering that was alleged against him is concerned. As we get more details, we'll bring you up to speed. But let's get out of the continent where thousands of people have rallied in Niger and Burkina Faso in support of the withdrawal of their countries from the Economic and Community of West African States, ECOWAS, which takes effect today, January the 29th. Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso formally notified ECOWAS of their plan for an immediate withdrawal in January 2024, citing the organization's excessive dependence on France in particular. Speaking on the implications of the exit of the 3 countries on a breakfast program, at the morning brief, Nigeria's former ambassador to Switzerland and permanent representative to the United Nations, Ambassador Joseph Ayelugu, says that these countries are still part of the sub-region and cannot live physically as the things that determine the past relation and why they became part of the ECOWAS still remain. So officially, they leave the bloc, but of course, geography, they still remain part of West Africa. They now have their own Sahel summit as far as their relationships are concerned. Hey, that's it on the program. Thank you so much for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma, on Lunchtime Politics. Bye-bye.